What's going on, y'all? Y'all right here hanging out with me for Black Hollywood's live discussion of The Get Down. And this is the finale episode. Only from Exile can we come home. So come home with us. Stay tuned.
Somewhere far, far away, beyond the crowds and city lights, out of the darkness we will shine.
I can't sing as good as her, but
So good. She's
good.
so good.
So good.
Oh my God.
Goodness, guys. We have come home to the finale of part 2 of The Get Down. You are hanging out with your girl, Franceli Chapman. You can hang out with me at all things at Sully Hangout. I'm all choked up. I can't even keep it together.
Hey guys, my name is Sheldon White. You can find me on all social media at Sheldon White 2.
There you have it, guys.
Here we
Oh
are,
my
the
gosh,
finale.
the
We
finale.
made it.
We made it. We did it. We did it.
Oh,
Only from Exile can we come home. It's so fitting.
Yes.
Because we left off with the guys going away because, hey, they got into a lot of trouble. You know, pistol whipping Fat Annie. You don't get to stay around when you do something like that. So, you know, Cadillac comes busting in through the door, and we know what's up. We know he's looking for Shao to get his revenge. And I'm like, man, now I'm not as mad at Cadillac because I'm like, yo, what you would do? That's your mom's. Like,
absolutely.
You pistol whip my mom's. Something's happening.
I'm coming
to you.
after
I'm
you,
coming
and I'm
for
bringing
you.
people, and we're going to get you. I was just glad Shao wasn't there.
Yes.
I mean,
the
'cause
boys weren't there.
They would have had no hope. Like, they were coming in full force.
Oh my goodness, Lord. Shout outs to the folks that are in the live chat with us. Make sure you let us know what you thought about the finale and the whole part 2. Let us know how you're feeling. Do you think it's going to get renewed for a second season? What do you hope to see? If you have questions for us, make sure you hit us up on the live chat on Black Hollywood Live. But all in all, Sheldon, now that it's done and it's over, how do you feel?
Whew. You know, I feel I've loved the show. I've really loved it from the beginning. I really hope that we keep going. I hope that we get to season 2 because I think there's so many interesting themes in this show.
Yes.
And I've just fallen in love with the characters, and I need to know what happens to all of them.
You gave a shout out to Little Wolf last time.
I did.
And when they're in Shao's palace, rock steady, baby. And he's singing. I was like, all right.
Get a little
He better sing
love.
rock steady. Oh my goodness. But you know, Cadillac wasn't feeling that at all. But you know, Ra had the master plan. He is the visionary. They go to the Zulu nation. They're trying to figure out how to bring all the forces. Thought it was so dope. The Star Wars theme, let the force be with the young brothers
yeah, that
of the
was
Get
great.
Down. And bringing all the kingdoms together, you know, Flash, Herc, African Bambaataa. And then there was actually a 4th DJ that they brought on as well. But I thought it was amazing that they had that vision, that it's like, if we all come together, there's no way they can shut this down.
Exactly.
And I think that's a great theme for humanity. Like, if we just come together and learn to find what unites us instead of what divides us, we'd be so much stronger.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Ugh,
that would be
wouldn't that
so
be
nice.
nice?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice? Y'all, listen, I'm really happy. I'm really sad, but I'm really happy about this finale. Like, there's just so many things that happened and came together. I mean, because at first, Stiggy is pissed that to a certain degree, he feels like he's lost his star. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean,
Mylene's father-
she's down and out, and you can't blame her. But
No.
they also they don't think about that. They think about the money. They think about the
Yes.
movie. They're just on that one-track mind. So,
Look, this is the thing. If your father blows his brains out because you sang a sexual toy box song,
right.
and then the other stuff that she didn't know about, it makes you think, hey, I might have chosen the wrong career path. Like, you'll think twice about why you should
Can
be
you
doing.
imagine all the guilt she must feel? Especially, like you said, she doesn't know about any other, at least to our knowledge, she doesn't know about anything else.
Right, at that point.
At that point.
Because we
and-
find out some other things. later.
Exactly. But, like, the guilt, I can't even imagine.
But how you said they don't care, because he's
They
like,
don't
I need
care.
a star.
They
And
need
so
their money.
Roy tells Shane, like, look, get her in my office, like, ASAP. We need to find her. But I've been Shane, he hasn't watched the after. I'm gonna call Jeremy Harris. Now that the Get Down's over and I watched every episode, I can call him. I'm gonna give him a call and be like, Shane, you in this hotel room with Regina sniffing this coke. I'm not feeling this. How did you feel?
I was surprised. I mean, like, I knew that might be a thing, but I didn't see them in a hotel room like that together. Did you think that was gonna happen?
I didn't see that coming.
It just jumped a couple steps.
I was like,
whoa, here we are.
We got here real quick.
Whoa.
0 to 100.
Yes,
real quick.
100%. 100%.
Well, Rara does pitch the plan to Africa Bambaataa.
Mm-hmm.
He's down with the Get Down as long as, you can get the rest. They go to Flash. And they're seeing, the vision of these boys and that it makes sense, and everything's starting to come together. And I'm feeling like I'm in a Disney movie. I'm like, whoa, this is going to be a happily ever after. We find out otherwise, which I'm glad they did that because we'll talk about this later, perception versus reality. But it's like we can have a perception of how we dream and wish for things to come. And then there's a reality. And I like that they didn't do a ribbon bow ending because that's not life. That's not reality. There are consequences to our decisions. There are consequences to our actions. So praise the Lord for them showing that. It's Sunday, so I be having to praise Jesus. Speaking of praising the Lord, they have the funeral. Ramon's ashes go. I am assuming the Hudson River. I don't know. It's by the water.
You know better than I
But
do.
it's New York, so I'm going to say the Hudson River, right? For kicks. And she's distraught. But Zeke didn't know this whole time.
That was a moment that I was like, wait a second, it's not the current day. Like, I mean, I know it's in that time, but I was like, why wasn't Zeke there? And I was like, they didn't have cell phones. Like, I just literally forgot that was how it used to be.
Yeah, no cell phones.
No support from Zeke, but like, he didn't know.
He didn't know. She's like, where were you? And I'm like, he's been in exile. He's been trying, like, he's been running for his life. Like, his life is, so it's like, she doesn't know what's going on with him. He doesn't know what's going on with her. And it's one of those things where it's like, we take stuff for granted, I think, now, and the access we have to people, and we take people for granted. And I think it's unfortunate that we've used social media as a crutch, Lord, in the sense of like, I'll go on Sheldon's page and be like, well, he looks really happy. Things are going well for him. I'll just check your Facebook and use that as a gauge to.
And now I know that they're good.
And now that I know that you're good, I'm not picking up the phone and calling you and making sure that the perception that you're putting up on social media isn't your reality.
Right.
So let me check on your reality and actually make a contact person to person and say, hey, are you all right?
It's
like,
so
what's
crazy
going on with your life?
People don't put up negative stuff on social media.
No.
They very rarely do. And when they do,
They
a lot
get
of time,
crucified for it.
exactly, people don't respond well to it.
People get, oh, there he go, there she go,
Right.
just spilling her whole life on, and it's
So
like,
we have to do this thing where we just put on the highlights and that doesn't
reels.
show you anything.
And that's not reality.
Not at all.
So I really appreciate, yes, like you said, that wake up call. Like him finding out through the news was a wake up call that don't allow waiting till something bad happens for you to check on your people.
For sure.
Message. Speaking of messages, Mylene finds the tape or keeps the tape.
Oh, yeah.
And listens to it. And she listens to her father's message and finds out the truth that her father wasn't her real dad. I mean, is that how a child wants to find out? Oh my God. Like,
no, that whole situation is so complicated
and messy.
I could not imagine that, let alone with the current situation. It was hard. I just poor Mylene. Like, everything's kind of crashing right now.
Her whole world, it's what seems, is crashing down. And because of that, well, I want to get to Fat Annie really quick because she has this obsession with Shao.
Obsession.
And I thought she wanted him dead. But when she has this scene with Cadillac, we realize she just wants him home.
Yeah.
And she's like, go get your brother. And I'm like, wait a minute. What kind of twisted family love triangle situation is happening here? Like, I was really taken aback by that. Like, I was just like, oh, you're not even mad about him pistol whipping you. Like, you are, but you aren't. Like, you're more mad about this money and this contract
Right.
and the business continuing because he's like the front man of your business.
It's so weird for Fat Annie because she, in particular, like anybody messes with you, you're donezo. You would think like if you mess with Fat Annie, you're done.
Right.
But and like Xiao, it just like you said, it's so twisted. I can't get inside her brain.
Right.
I just can't do it. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do it. I try, but
I ain't gonna do it. Well, Francisco comes. It was just epic how they did everything. She's listening to the tape. Francisco comes in and is visiting. She's like, "You gotta go." He's giving her the money, and she's like, "Well, where you're going, you're gonna need it." And I'm, for a second, because from Exile we should come home. I'm thinking he's just gonna go away for a little bit.
That's what I thought
go
too.
into exile,
yes,
until this whole thing blows over. But no, he actually gets arrested. He goes to jail, and I'm like, whoa. And Sheldon, you didn't know why he was going to jail.
I got confused. I was like, what'd he do? Like, I just had this minute where I forgot about all the stuff in season 1 and how it's all
connected.
Connected.
So when you, during part 2, every time they brought up the newspaper clipping of him being connected to the arson, it still wasn't clicking for you?
It still wasn't clicking for me. That could be me. That could be me.
Got it. But that's the thing, guys, Netflix, when you take so long to give us part 2.
For sure. It's been like 8 months or 8 months or something.
It's been a while. So that's the
refresh.
thing, that if you didn't go back and watch part 1 or don't have the kind of memory I have, because I didn't watch part 1 again, but I remember that it was like, that was the whole thing when Xiao lost his records. You know, it was because of the fire. And the little kids burnt all the apartments.
And I remember that now.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they did that because Francisco was paying these kids to burn down these buildings. Whew,
I think there's sometimes just with the show, I love the show, but there's sometimes so many things going on.
So much
that
going
you
on.
miss one. And then you're kind of confused and little things happen, but then there's something else going on. You just get a little distracted.
But you know what? I'm from New York, so that's the beauty. That's so real. That is New York. It's like, it's always moving.
Go.
The city that never sleeps. It's like, there's so much going on that you don't feel like you have your hand on the pulse of what's really happening in the city.
Right.
And it's just like you find your way throughout the city depending on what crowd you're from. And then you keep your pulse in the ear to the street on that side of the world or that side of town. That's why some people never leave their boroughs. Like, it's crazy to think this, but till this day in New York, there are people that have never left the Bronx.
Yeah.
Have never seen the Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building.
That's so insane.
They've never left their borough. Brooklyn too. People have never left Brooklyn. So it's like, that's a reality. So how are you going to know everything that's going on when you don't know anything outside your 4-block radius? So yes, it can be confusing for an audience member, but someone that's from this place
It makes sense.
and understand that this is the madness of that place.
Right.
I appreciate the madness. I'm like, oh, I got to keep up. Wait, what's going on? I might have to watch it a second time, you know?
Right.
So I appreciated that. That's just me. So Mylene and Zeke make a run for it. He goes to see her after he realized what happened and brings her favorite flowers, which Cadillac's on his way to do the same.
Oh, creepy Cadillac at it again.
creepy.
He's like, I'm gonna show up. I got all these flowers. I'm Cadillac.
He's
She's gonna love it. She's weak. Like,
But I like the fact that his boys called him out and said, but yo, aren't you supposed to be looking for Shaw? But he's like, y'all don't get it. That Afro kid is not going to stay away from her.
Right.
So seeing her connects us to them. So it's like he's killing 3 birds with 1 stone, like he said. So I appreciate that although he got his mind somewhere else, he also still has his mind on the plan. But the thing with everyone in the chat, shout outs to the chat throughout the last few episodes, they kept telling me Cadillac's age. And I'm like, how did y'all know his age? But remember, you guys binge watched. I've been watching per week because I want to give you guys an authentic response to my thing. So it wasn't until this episode we find out his actual age. So shout outs to y'all who just gave it away to me long before. But I was like, how y'all know he's 29? Like, what? But she's now... she was 17 in part 1. She's 18 in part 2. So she's technically legal now that we know ages. But 18 to 29, I still think is gross. I'm just like, what does a 29-year-old and an 18-year-old have in common?
Right.
I just don't think you should be doing that. That's just me. Whatever. So they make a run for it because Cadillac gets to the house at the same time.
by the way, I understood why they made a run for it, but I was kind of like, poor mama. Mylene just runs. I was like, what about Mama, who's gone through all this?
Has lost both her dudes.
Yes.
Now she got nobody.
And now doesn't know where her daughter is.
Doesn't know where her daughter is.
I felt bad for her.
But I realized they made a run together, but not together. Because like they made a run, but he's like, look, go to Jackie's.
Yep.
Give me 2 days. Like, I got to handle this stuff. And I'm just like, I wondered why he didn't take her with him. Did you feel that way at all? Like,
I
was just
didn't even think about that.
I was like, wait, why did she just go with you to the Zulu Nation? Like,
right.
I mean, Ra-Ra's chick, I mean, she's already part of the Zulus, but I'm like, she was there. Like, it's not like women weren't allowed.
I wonder if it had anything to do with like safety and knowing Cadillac was eventually going to make
Right.
his way there because
Right.
they thought that. I mean, he knew Cadillac was after him and all of them. So maybe that had something to do with it.
Right. Shout outs to Nikki, who's asking us if we've heard about the actress that plays Mylene, something about her. I haven't, so tell us in the
haven't
chat.
either.
You know, I always don't have my pulse to the streets about what's going on with our actors, but let me know.
I would love to learn about her because she's so talented. I mean, how she has evolved in this 12 or 11 episode arc
Right.
is crazy. Like,
Right.
this actress is very talented.
Very talented. Super young, mixed chick. I love mixed people. I think it's incredible because it helps us get closer to not marginalizing folks and saying who we are. Because now we're so mixed with so many different cultures and races. Look, we're all just human beings, like, you know? So I love seeing people that are mixed with so many different cultures, and she's a beautiful mix of West Indian culture. So shout outs to her. So Mylene is at Jackie's. And Jackie's house is an ish show. Because I'm not going to curse on this Sunday. It's literally an ish show is what I feel like. There's drag queens, there's ladies, there's men's, there's so much going on there. But it actually benefits her because she finds her voice there.
Yeah, she's able to just be authentic.
Yeah.
Say what she's like. I'm not even much of a church person. I'm just glad. I just wanted to sing. Like,
Right.
when has she had an environment that she said that?
Right.
Really, aside from maybe with Zeke.
Right.
So it was great. I thought it was really nice that she ended up there. It's exactly where she needed to be at that time.
You know, it's so funny how, like, the world just conspires together. So I watched this episode. Disclaimer, y'all, I cried. I'll tell y'all why later. Don't judge me. But then today at church, like, the pastor talked about how, like, your blessing and your purpose is connected to the real you. So as long as you're walking in the false sense of who you are, you're not going to be blessed. And that's how I feel Mylene, like, she was getting certain blessings, but it all came crashing down because she was being someone she wasn't. She was being who other people wanted her to be. And when she finally found her voice, her true authentic self, and walked in that and walked in her power and in her authority, she was able to walk into this office and make decisions. She was no longer desperately needing the validation of this label and Roy and other people to tell her she was good. She finally owned her truth and knowing that she was good at what she does and that she's valuable, and that value has a cost to it, and you're going to pay for that. Come on, girl. Listen, when I tell you, I was so proud of her, and so, like, I was like, yes, this is walking in your truth. And I think that as artists, there's so many artists out there that do come from this place of desperation. And the more you act out of desperation, even once you make it, you got to keep doing desperate things to stay there. So it's like, know your power. Know that you're worth something.
Right.
Whether you're a musician or a writer or a painter or an actor, whatever it is that you do, know that you're valuable. And that's what I think that moment was. And I loved it.
It was great. And she stood up for her girls. Which I love. I was like, do it. That's what you said you're doing it.
Loyalty.
Like, yes.
Hashtag loyalty matters. It does.
It does matter.
We live in a world where loyalty is far and few in between. You know, people are trying to climb the corporate ladder or whatever ladder, and it doesn't necessarily matter who they shove aside or, you know, willing to get to the top even if it means on their own. And I just love how she said, no, I don't do this without them.
Right. And even though she's been through so much, she's still thinking clearly enough to stick to her girls, and I love it.
Wow. So Nikki gives us the scoop on Mylene. So apparently in real life, our actress, she's 20 and is turning 21, but there's a scandal going around that she's dating a 16-year-old. I'm going to have to do my due diligence on that one, Nikki. And let me read up on what's going on. But supposedly her mother says that it was Photoshop, but they're conflicting reports. She's hoping it's untrue. I mean, it's kind of weird, but I would really not want her to be recast. Oh, so they're saying this might jeopardize her role.
Wow.
Whoa. Alrighty. That's the thing about social media and even news, unfortunately. I feel like news has become like social media. Even like sometimes CNN can be questionable. Like it's just, they take a piece of news and run with it before knowing all the facts.
Oh, for sure.
And people are just retweeting and re-sending things that aren't always true. So we'll do our due diligence on that and of course get to the bottom of what's really happening
for
there.
Sure. I didn't know any of that. So
Yeah,
thank you.
she would be great for a biopic for Aaliyah, don't you think?
She would. Oh yeah.
She looks, yeah.
She could do it.
She could totally do it.
She could do it.
All right, y'all. So let's keep going on with this episode. The cereal records. That was a moment for me. When Boo Boo comes in with all the cereal boxes, when he was supposed to use the money to buy records because they're trying to, get ready for this all-out kingdom battle.
Right.
And I'm like, wait. And then he's like, no, they're actually records.
I was so like, what's happening?
I was like, wait, I got to call my older brothers that were actually alive during this time. Like, we're actually, like, full-fledged adults during this time and be like, hey, wait, was this real?
Was that real?
Like, could you take something off of a cereal box and put it on a turntable and it would actually play music? I need to know this.
My mind was blown. I did not. I was like, what's going on? Like, and then it worked, and I was like, is this one of those fantasy things that goes on? But I don't think it was. I mean, they portrayed it as if it was something that actually happened during that time period.
So I'm like, hey,
So
y'all,
we
if
need
y'all
help
in
on
the
that,
chat
too.
and you
We need some
know,
help.
let us know, please. But I really love that moment. That moment was super, super cool for me. Thor and Dizzy. Because this whole time, Dizzy's not with the boys. And they're trying to find Dizzy.
Yep.
And going through the records, Shao finds a hidden gem on how to find Dizzy and where he is. He's at the Chelsea Pier. And then we see that they're having this paint party.
This neon, just like
Out of this world,
dance,
extraterrestrial,
paint
alien
everywhere.
life.
Oh, yeah.
Are you surprised that, I mean, it's the finale, so I thought like something was going to happen. Are you surprised that they kept it so PG? Like, not even a kiss, Like, I didn't expect, like, a full-blown sex scene or anything like that.
Right.
But, like, not even a kiss happened. So I was like, And there was so much tension. I was like, it was building up.
There was so much tension that I think because of all the tension, I didn't even need the kiss. I was like, it's happening. This is
like
what's
that.
happening. Even though they're not showing stuff, like, I just followed it. It
Right.
made sense to me.
I appreciated the innocence. I know we talked about it a little bit last week about how like it wasn't wham, bam, boom, bam. It's
Right.
It's like, we're young and we're still trying to figure it out. And at that time, things were innocent, whether it was a heterosexual relationship or,
Right.
A same-sex relationship. Like, it doesn't have to be so fast.
Right.
I think we live in such a fast world now. It doesn't, like, let's remember they're teenagers, you know? Like, that, like, back in the day, just holding hands was a big deal. Like, we're going steady, like, wearing the sweater and the pin, that was it.
Right.
We've come a long way from there.
Yes, we have. Hey, it looks like the records were real.
Ooh.
They made them for some time in the early 80s.
Oh, shout out to Ice Cold Bruh. Thank you, Ice Cold Bruh.
Oh, that's
We
cool.
appreciate that.
That's really cool.
That
They
is
should
really
bring
cool.
that back.
They should bring that back.
Some people got some record players now.
Right,
They
and I
got
got some Captain Crunch boxes.
Yeah, let's put them together.
Just
Make
make
some
it happen.
music.
Let's make it happen. So Dizzy and Thor are having this party. Shao, like the whole time, Shao's on his motorcycle. Are you feeling tense about that? I'm like, what is he about to walk into? That's again why I thought something was gonna happen to have Shao walk into something. But again, it like you said, it was all palpable and it was enough that you didn't need it. Like Shao walked in, the tension was there. He could see what, like it was kind of like, okay. And his response to it was beautiful.
It was beautiful. Firstly, I never would have thought that Shao would have been the first to find out.
Right.
I did not think that was going to be a
didn't see that
choice from the
coming.
writers, and I really appreciated it because he is probably the one that you'd be most nervous about.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, because they throw around that F word on that
Oh,
show.
all the time.
All the time.
All the
I was
time.
like,
all
oh,
of them are doing it.
The
it seems
F-bombs are like going everywhere. Like,
And the fact that he was like, my name's Shao. You don't know. I got secrets.
Right.
You guys, whatever.
yeah.
You're my brother.
No one needs to know.
Let's go.
Let's go.
It was great. And it was quick. And it was,
Yeah. And I really appreciated that because it's, again, like, we do live in a much more open society now.
Right.
And I know I was sharing with you earlier, I have a friend that wasn't always out,
Mm-hmm.
but when he wasn't, I didn't make the decision or the choice to go around telling people, oh, this is what he is. Although by looking at him or having a conversation with him, people just assume that he was. But I'm like, if it's not coming out of his mouth, I'm not going to say that. When he's good and ready to come
Right.
out to the world,
right.
then we'll be good and ready to have that
Right.
conversation. But I think allowing people to come to who they are in their own time, and I think that that's what that was for Shao. Like, look, I get it. This is what's happening. You're not ready to let the world know, so I'm not going to tell the world
not
about it
gonna.
either. Like,
You do you.
I'm going to do me.
I'm going to do me. And we'll be brothers and do this music.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
It was
I
great.
loved it. So Dizzy's back. The whole crew's together. We're about to have the Battle of the Galaxy. And the Battle of the Galaxy was epic. Was it not epic?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. That was fun.
What?
Seeing all the different crews come together.
It was the best performance,
Yeah.
I feel like, out of the boys, the crews.
Yeah.
I was like, this was it. Like, and the opening, like, it's time to school these mother effers. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, like, and even the rhymes were so timely about why hip hop started and what it was about, and taking the language, taking the ABCs and writing them down and putting them together and having all these choices to rhythmically school people on your experience, where you come from. And that is what hip hop is. Like,
Right.
they're storytellers. It's about telling the story of how they grew up and where they come from. And
Don't you feel like we've lost some of that now?
oh yeah, for sure.
I miss that.
I miss that too.
I miss that.
Yeah.
I wish that we still had that.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like, I mean, we do. There are some hip hop artists that stay true to that, but not many, I feel like.
Yeah. You know, that's the thing. Like, even with Shao's choice of using Malcolm X in the intro, I was just like, those times have changed. There's still some people who do that. J. Cole, Kendrick, who use their interludes and their time to, like, really talk about what's happening in the world today and how they're feeling. Though, man, I remember when it was albums. Like, you would literally sit and listen to a whole album. It wasn't like pick and choose playlists and
Right.
things like that. Like, it was like, I'd buy the album, I'd sit down, I'd listen to the whole thing. I wouldn't judge it from the first listen. Like, I'd keep listening to it because I needed to hear the metaphors and like, people don't dissect hip hop that way anymore. People just automatically hear a song or an album, and the first time they listen to it, they've already made a judgment of it. And
They
I'm
hear
like,
the beat.
how?
They can't, yeah.
How do you make a judgment on a whole album in the first listen?
Right.
No way. I remember the Virgin Megastore in New York. It used to be 4 floors, and it was like records and CDs and books, and you could go in there, and I would go in there and spend the whole day just listening to albums. Like, that store does not exist anymore. It's now a
Right.
Forever 21, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
It sucks. But yeah, like, I do miss that about hip hop, and that's what that show was for me. It was like, wow, like, this is what hip hop was all about.
Right.
And thank God for the rappers that still are trying to keep that alive, that are poets. That's what they are. And Cadillac kind of smiled and kind of laughed that off, like, ha, you guys are poets. And until this day, there are people that look at hip hop in that way. They shun it like, poetry. But it is. Just because it doesn't
Right.
look like Shakespeare's poetry, doesn't sound like what you consider poetry, doesn't mean it isn't. It's just, you know, the inner city's way of speaking to their hearts and their people. So it's their poetry. It's the poetry of the nitty gritty.
This is beautiful.
Man,
This is beautiful. Look at you.
man, look, This episode, I'm telling you, it took me home. Like,
Yeah.
it literally took me from exile to home. Because I've been exiled from New York in a particular way. I'm 3,000 miles away on the other side of the country in California. I've been here for a few years. But this episode brought me home. And that's why I cried. Can we
Right.
talk about So Mylene finds her voice. She goes to the studio because Stiggy is like ecstatic. I was reading in a blog about them saying that this reminded them of kind of like his epiphany of doing Staying Alive. That it's like talking about that movie. And I'm like, oh, Staying Alive was such a great movie. But I was thinking like, man, here she is in the studio and she's singing this song and Zeke is watching her sing this song. And I'm literally in tears.
Are you?
I am, because I'm thinking about the Bronx and I'm thinking about how I got out and I'm thinking about a lot of the people who didn't and people who are too scared or didn't dream big enough to see outside of the condition of where they are. And I go home and there are people who are still doing the same thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't judge that. But there's something about getting out, you know, and her flying. And that moment where Zeke wasn't this possessive young boyfriend that says, but you must love me and stay with me. He says, go fly. Your dreams are in California. And I was just like, I had a moment. I just literally had a moment because it really touched me personally, you know,
Yeah.
like, and that's the thing, like your dreams and relationships, can you have them both? Is that possible? The sacrifices we make as artists, we sacrifice money, time, our family, our friends, our sometimes relationships, people who don't understand, don't see the vision, and we give up a lot in the name of a dream. But Mylene, thankfully, has someone willing to wait for
He
her.
understands that. I always feel like when you're talking about like sacrifices, and I feel like everybody, like you, your parents, everyone draws like a little book, and they like a little picture book of how your life's gonna go. You're gonna have kids. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do this. And when things get off the book, people don't always respond well to that.
Right.
However, I believe that you can still have these things, just maybe not the way that you envisioned it. You know, maybe you can't have kids, maybe you adopt. I mean, I think there's so many things that different ways to have things down the road, but I just think it doesn't always happen in the timeline that you want.
Right.
And not everything that you want is going to happen either.
Right.
Realistically.
Realistically, perception versus reality, and we'll get into that. But speaking of that, you know, the performance, what got to me, what started to choke me up, but of course Mylene took it over the edge, was Shao and Cadillac's moment. How did you feel about that moment from a male perspective? Because for me, I'm a girl, so I'm watching it and I'm just like, this brother to brother thing, this man really getting to the heart of where he really is and saying, man, you're saying I'm not your brother, but I am.
It was an incredibly vulnerable moment for Shao.
For both of them.
For both of them.
Yeah.
But for Shao to be able to find that connection, to acknowledge it, and to reach out to him like that was great. Shao, that surprises me in Shao's character to be able to do that. And Cadillac, I mean, you could just see all that he's gone through. And like, I just think it was a very vulnerable moment for the two of them. And they don't have very many vulnerable moments. So I loved it.
Yeah. I literally, that moment where he's like, I'm just trying to live free. Like, he's trying to break the chains of the captivity that Fat Annie has had him in. And to find out, like, that they both were molested by her, I was like,
Can you imagine Cadillac's life? Like, no wonder he's
so messed
the
up.
way he is.
I'm like, I get it now.
Yeah.
Like, all this time I've been
You've
hating
been
on him.
like, get rid of him.
Cadillac gotta go. And he's and then I'm like, he's looking at this little girl, but I'm like, but look at this grown woman that was I'm thinking he's always been mad at her for favoring Shao because it was disgusting.
That's
but I'm
what I
like,
thought,
no,
too.
he did the same thing to her, and then he got too old.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. He got too old. So she got a new young brother.
Right.
Oh, man. Yeah, so Cadillac, my heart goes out to you. And I'm thankful that happened, because then Shao gave him a gift. It's like, I may not like him, but I respect him.
Right.
And he, I may not like his music, but he owns it. It's his. And it's just like, I need to walk in my truth. That's what this whole episode was about. People walking in their truth and really owning who they are. And Cadillac's like, it's time for me to own who I am. And I'm telling you, the end of this episode just got me. I was like, okay, y'all, that's it. That's it. Okay, Boo gets arrested. I didn't see that coming. But like I said before, I appreciate the not the bow tie ending.
Right.
There are repercussions to our decisions, and that is the reality. So it's like, well, Boo gets arrested, so the kingdom, the perception in the dream wasn't the reality. For a second, they lived in this kingdom. We got them all together. We're doing great. And that castle was shattered by the reality. Boo gets taken to jail. To a certain degree, the group dissipates.
For sure.
Because it's like you lose one member. It changes the whole dynamic of this brotherhood.
In general, and he's actually two of their brothers too. Like, it doesn't look good for them. I feel bad for Boo. I mean, he was the kid. Bad.
He was the youngest.
He's the kid.
He's the kid.
It was their job to protect him.
Yeah. But that's why Zeke was so infuriated.
Oh, yeah?
And he's like, look, your own brother. Like, what? But then again, Zeke don't have all the facts, because remember what really happened? Boo was going to go sell for someone else. And Shao was just like, I'd rather him sell for me and be under me.
So I can monitor that.
Right.
Even though you should never have let him do that in the first place.
Yeah, but so Zeke and Shao get into it. That was really rough for me. I just, man, like, Zeke was the only family that Shao had. These boys was his only real family based on everything he's been through. And Zeke has made an executive decision that Shao, from his perception, because perception and reality, Shao is never going to change. So in his perception, it's like, it's time for me to walk away and make better decisions to get out.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
I think it's hard, but I think that that's what happens in life. Like, eventually there are people in your life that you have to recognize that they might be holding you back, and they might be distracting you from where you want your life to go. And that's huge. And
they're not bad people.
They're not bad people.
It doesn't mean that you don't like them or they're not your friends. Or people have an expiration date. Some people are meant in your life for just a season. Shao definitely came into Zeke's life for a purpose. They were destined to meet. Had he never met Shao, he would have never became Books, would never have understood where to take his poetry outside of his notebook and put, lyrics together. Like, it all thanks to Shao, but it's time to get out. And to a certain degree, the way Shao's living, I'll never get out with you attached to me in a particular way. So I get it. We find out Shao's real name. Curtis.
Which surprised me. I gotta say, that surprised me.
You know what? I like it, though, because it alludes to, because, at the end of the episode, they say 9 months later, Rapper's Delight was recorded, and so Curtis Blow is one of the grandfathers of hip-hop. So I'm like, I wonder if that his name being Curtis is paying homage to Curtis Blow. So shout outs to them if that's what they did. But finding out his real name was really epic, because I believe, I keep saying this whole episode of perception versus reality, but some people don't like the comic book stuff, but I did, because we sometimes live in a fantasy versus the reality. And so Shao lived in this fantasy of his alias, Shao Fantastic. And this is his dream, and this is what he was doing. But his reality and the decisions he was making in his reality wasn't going to allow him to live this dream.
Right.
So we have to really look at all the facts of the reality. I'm not saying don't dream. You should dream, and dream really big. But I think Zeke, in his dreaming, made some really realistic decisions that Shao didn't. And if you could look at both, that's kind of...
Zeke has the ability, I think, to look long-term.
Right.
He's got the long-term vision. He's got the big picture, and Shao's just in the present. He's in the present in his fantasy world. It makes me wonder a lot about Curtis and, like, what Curtis's life was before.
Right.
And do you think that Shao will change?
I don't know. We shall see. I mean, it might spiral him worse because Zeke left.
Yep.
You know, and that's the thing. Codependency is what I learned in that moment, because it's like, yes, separation is difficult, but we are not to be tethered or tied to anyone, because we all have a time where we go. So it's like when we become codependent on our friends, our family, our wives, our spouses, whoever, you become so dependent that you feel like you can't live without them. And then they're gone, even whether it's a breakup or someone falls ill and dies. Like, there's gonna come a time where separation will happen. You have to be able to go on without them. And so that's the thing. If you can't stand in your greatness without these people, although we all need people, we can't do it by ourselves.
For sure.
But it's like, again, there's certain seasons. Of course, from what it's looking like, Zeke's gonna go on to greatness with or without Shao.
Yes.
Because he's standing in his truth. Now, as long as Shao is standing in this perception and this false version of himself, I don't know if he'll change. I don't know if he'll make it out, because he has to look in the mirror and come to grips with himself.
Which is probably very hard.
It's very difficult to do.
Very hard, because he's so gone in the fantastic world.
I mean, he had to.
It was a defense mechanism from his life.
For the trauma and the stuff he's been through, and I get that. But until you acknowledge the trauma and how it's affected you, that's the only way you'll be able to come on the other side of it.
Yep.
You know? See you on the other side, Miley. Oh, my God. I'm telling you, I'm just... So do you think Dizzy died? Everyone's asking. I don't know. Like, shout outs to those in the chat that are asking us.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Zeke and Thor went out for one last big tag. It was really important to Zeke. Not Zeke, to Dizzy. Thor didn't want him to do it. He's like, no, they're really cracking down. We're either gonna go to jail. Something's gonna happen. He's like, no, like, I'm gonna teach Cox a lesson. Like, Koch is gonna see that this is part of the city. And from what we see, a subway car is coming at him, but then it ends. So I'm thinking they did that on purpose.
I think they did it on purpose for the cliffhanger, and I also wonder about, which I hate it when the story is, I wonder about Jaden Smith's availability. I wonder if that was a factor, and that always bothers me, because I want the story to be told the way the story should be told, not things like that. I don't think he dies. I just don't. I think Boo Boo getting arrested is enough, and the whole Shao fight.
Right.
Like, I think Dizzy's gonna make it.
Yeah, I hope so. But they do have to do that to cover themselves. Like, A, we don't know if they're gonna be renewed for a second season. B, yes, Jaden Smith can book a huge movie tomorrow and
do more music or whatever Jaden Smith wants to do.
And his contract's probably different than the rest. He probably has a little more wiggle room. So therefore, they have to cover themselves as a show. It's unfortunate, but it's what they got to do. I'm not really mad at it that much. For me, the studio session with Zeke by himself, that also made me cry. Because he never imagined that he could do it by himself. And that moment was like, look, just get in there and
just go.
Just like, do it.
Oh, yeah. And he was so... He was just speaking from the heart.
Life is a test. I was like, life is a test, Zeke. You're only 17, 18. What's going on? You got all the knowledge books. And then Nas coming in at the same time. Oh, like it was a moment. It was another moment for me. And so Sheldon, will it get renewed? And what do you hope to see?
My concern about it getting renewed is the budget that they have on this thing.
The way the budget is set up.
It is they are at $16 million
That's
an
ridiculous.
episode.
That's crazy.
With posts and everything, they've spent over $190 million.
Yikes.
So that concerns me.
Right.
But if you're going to invest all this money into the show, you best renew it and you best wrap it up, I think.
Right.
And they also left us with all those cliffhangers. I would not be able to rest at night in years if this never comes to a complete close. So I think that it will be renewed. It's interesting, too, because Netflix never lets you know the ratings. No one really knows how much it's being seen. Right. They keep it all in-house.
Right. Well, you know, that's the thing. It's like with Netflix, it's not instant ratings like live television is. You know, it's like people binge. People hear about the Get Down. Now that part 2's over there, people are just starting to get down now. So it's like you just don't know. There are people that are going back to watch things that are on Netflix now that have been out for years. You know, it's one of those things where, like, I understand why it's in-house. I hope it gets renewed because I want to see the transition of disco into full-fledged hip-hop and R&B. I want to see the 80s. I want to see New York in the 80s. I want to see what happens to Mylene.
Oh, yeah.
That end when it's books as an adult and what it looks like is the Madonna singing. Is it really them or is it him paying tribute to them? Did Mylene die? Like, I don't know why I've always had this vision that Mylene, towards the end of the disco era, loses it. She's into the drugs. She has no family. And she loses herself, and he loses her to the drugs. And so now that he's an adult, he pays homage to her. And all because throughout, from part 1 to part 2, we're always seeing these background singers. And the singers are always singing songs that she used to sing as a child. So I'm like, either they got happily married or she's no longer around.
I think she died.
I
think she's going to die. I think you are spot on with that.
That's my prediction. And it sucks, but that's just like my spidey sense is telling me.
It's working, I think.
It's working. So that's how I feel, y'all. I'm like you guys in the chat. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on Black Hollywood Live for the Get Down finale episode from Exile We Come Home. I pray that Netflix keeps this going. The story of hip-hop should be told continuously. It's important to educate people on where we came from because like Cadillac said, well, like Fat Annie said, it always comes back around. So since it always comes back around, let's keep schooling people why it's important, why it's here, and why it's here to stay. Hip-hop ain't going nowhere no time soon. Keep us abreast, guys, on what's going on. Is there any last words you have for the Get Down?
Just thank you guys for tuning in and watching with us all the time. I mean, it makes us fun to have an interactive experience with you all.
Yeah.
And this show is amazing. And
the show is definitely nostalgic for me, being a kid from the Bronx. Growing up with older brothers that did b-boy, and I was introduced to hip-hop from my brothers. I used to take cassette tapes and put them on the radio to record songs. Like, that was... I didn't grow up in the 70s, but I'm an 80s baby, and hip-hop has shaped, and the New York and the Bronx has shaped me. So I'm just so...
Thank you, because you brought so much information that I didn't know. Like this, I've learned so much, and you've done such a lovely job.
Oh, thanks. I just want to say that I'm such a fan of this show. I'm just thankful that Black Hollywood Live, AfterBuzz, like this platform exists, that I can take my excitement to the world and you guys can join in on the conversation. So keep the conversation going, guys. Share this. Listen to us on the podcast. Share the YouTube. Subscribe to Black Hollywood Live. You can hang out with me at all things Franceli Chapman at Selly Hangout on the social webs. I'm also on the Jane the Virgin Aftershow on AfterBuzz.
Hey guys, one last time, I'm Sheldon White. You can find me on all social media at Sheldon White too.
And that's it. Thanks for getting down with us on Black Hollywood Live. See y'all next time.
From executives Kevin Undergaro, Dario Christie, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hollywood redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.